Welcome to this episode of Groundbreakers. I'm CGTN Xu Chen, and we're now in Dalian, and it's been 5 years, and the Summer Davos has returned to this northeastern coastal city in China, and the city is among the first batch of Chinese cities that opened up to the world. And this year, the theme for the Davos meeting gathering here in Dalian is the new frontier for growth, and I have invited my panel here. And we're going to discuss about how the ocean, because Dalian is a coastal city, how the blue economy can show China's determination and commitment to open up to the rest of the world. And we have Chris Turns, the managing director for APCO China, Greater China Operations. APCO is a consulting firm based in Washington, but also with global businesses. And we also have Li Xia, the founder of Shenzhen-based Power Solution, a rising startup in providing solar solutions, especially to area that people don't really have access to electricity. And we also have Professor Zhang Shuang from Dalian Maritime University, and specializing in the shipping business. And we're definitely going to have a pretty insightful discussion and over the economy, over the shipping, over the blue economy. So let's start with Professor Zhang, because you're from Dalian. You're not from Dalian, but you've been in Dalian for long enough, longer than most of us, the rest of us. So speaking of the shipping, speaking of the geographical location of Dalian, so what has the ocean, the blue economy bring to the economy of the city, and how has the city serving to help the country to really open up more to the rest of the world?
Well, actually, I've been a resident of Dalian since the last century. So actually, for me, that is more than 20 years and settled here. And top reason for me to like it here, that is the really pleasant climate. I think that is very straightforward and generous gift presented by the ocean.
Yeah.
So. Not only about the climate, and so enhanced by its standing coastline, and plenty seafood, and very well developed facilities. I think Dalian is not only catering its own residents, but also attracting millions of tourists every year. So that means that we really have a very famous tourist industry here, and the tourism industry in turn contribute to local business and create more job opportunities. But from a micro and very economical viewpoint, I think the proximity to the ocean of Dalian that makes it possible to develop many industries, including the shipping, shipbuilding, fishing, and also the marine science and technology and education. So now Dalian is the leading center for all these industries, and it is the gateway of the northeast of China. And now we are experiencing the transition towards carbon neutral economy and sustainable economy. So I think this brings Dalian with new development opportunities. So because the results of the ocean or the sea, actually Dalian can develop the innovative industries like the offshore wind generation, and the production of green hydrogen and green methanol. And the seawater can be used as the feedstock. So also so Dalian has more than 40 powerful scientific and educational institutes, including Dalian Maritime University and Dalian University of Technology, and Dalian Institute of Chemical and Physics. So I think this all empowered Dalian with the accelerated innovation in marine science and technology. So I think all those achievements or progress may have already benefited from the resource or from the proximity to the ocean.
Yeah,
that's my personal view.
Absolutely, and it kind of if we go back to the founder of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab, and during the earlier opening ceremony, and the professor also mentioned that Dalian, the proximity to the ocean, kind of brought good weather, good tourism to the city. But again, we'll look at the Summer Davos here in Dalian this year. it's really kind of focusing on innovation and technology. As Professor John has mentioned, the blue economy can also trickle into innovation and technological advancements, artificial intelligence or green transition and whatnot. But again, we have over 1,700 government and business leaders in Dalian from around the world. We can definitely see huge interest from the globe to really tune into this event here in China. It seems like the global confidence in China's economy is growing. The World Bank has lifted its estimate for China's 2024 GDP growth rate from 4.5% to 4.8%. So Chris, from your point of view, what are some of the sectors that you see the interest from global firms, and also how confident are they to kind of partnering with China or doing business in China?
So APCO is a strategic advisory firm. We've been in China for nearly 30 years, so we've got a very strong footprint here. And historically, we haven't worked with any particular sectors, or rather we work with all sectors. More recently, I think our specialization has been more around technology, healthcare and consumer goods. That's where we're really seeing our client base focus more. And clearly that's because we're seeing greater innovation in China, and we're seeing a return of that economic confidence that was there before and was, as we saw globally, lost during the COVID years. So as the Chinese economy begins to recover and gathers pace, and you're right, there are international estimates now which are going up as the GDP improves. So we're seeing more interest, some renewed interest from our consumer goods clients. But I think the interesting area is really still around technology, precisely because of the innovation that we're seeing across green energy and clean energy.
And China's Premier Li Qiang also delivered a special address during the opening ceremony for the 2024 Summer Davos, and he also mentioned about how technology can bring together, create more markets, not just here in China for Chinese companies, but also for international companies to be here in China to collaborate and to work with Chinese firms. And that also come to Ms. Li Qiang, and you founded a very, very good company. It's not really starting now because it's on a growing scale. Shenzhen-based power solution really kind of offered that energy solutions to area where that they lack the power grids or they cannot really use electricity or whatnot. So what do you see from this event, and how confident are your partners in terms of doing business with you and doing business with the other Chinese counterparts?
I think this is a quite good experience to share with anybody else about what is a social enterprise. Maybe it's mostly people is the first time to hear about this word. So what is a social enterprise? It means you target the social problem when you found this company, and then you must make your business sustainable. So that is called social enterprise. Come back to the question is what makes us different, to make our partner trust us more, is because the social enterprise, you start from a mission, what do you trust, with your ambition, with your trust. It's not easy for you to give up, to stop. So consist is quite different from the most of a commercial company, maybe a little bit. And another thing is because of this social mission, we were awarded by World Economic Forum's SWA Foundation by 2024. So it has to be seen and recognized by the world. So this is really important for enterprise, is a brand value, is transparency, is a credit. So that is what we are a little bit different. And another thing is when you are starting from the mission, you also have the same mission partners. So that means you and your partner both was selected and make sure you are looking for a long-term business. But I have to say, we grow up, this company now is about a 20 million turnover. People don't really trust us in the beginning. You work for the poor people. BOP is bottom of pyramid population. That means it's less income, this population, how you earn the profit. So I think we have to come back to the consumer value. What is their suffering, the problems and the challenges? What is the value you really create? No matter is poor or is rich, they are consumer. So in the business perspective, what you have to do is you have to contribute the value and to solve the problems. So that is make us different. But we have to say we sustained and we make our company up we don't make our company down. It's not only our own benefit or efforts, it's the benefit through the China green energy industry growth. We leverage a lot. I remember starting from 2009, I started this business. Solar panel is almost $2 1 watt. But today, it's less than 20 cents per watt. Means what? Means after 15 years, the new technology in China by the industry grow is 90% job done. So if without this industry growth, how I can make the affordability of African last mile people to afford to buy the clean energy? So that's why how we scale, because more and more people could be affordable, then scalable business is becoming possible for us. So we have to say we grow by the chance of the age China technology grow. And I think that is also somehow, if you look at behind, is supported by government policy, by innovations, industry leaders, and continuously people working hard on it.
But I want to follow up on that, is because you mentioned definitely your firm has been kind of rising with, as China kind of transitioning to become more cleaner and greener with all those solar technologies and whatnot. But in addition to these products, what else can your firm bring to Africa? Industries or supply chains? Can you also help to build the local economy? Because if we compare Chinese firms versus Western firms, there's definitely different mode of how they do localization or do business.
If the question is a must, you must to be localization. If we look at 20, 30 years ago back to China, a lot of investors come to China to invest. It's not only because of our labor cost is cheaper, it's more because the Chinese potential market itself is huge, right? So when the investor is coming, they have to invest locally to grow together the business and empower the local people to grow. So if I remember, 30 years ago, 90% of our components is imported. But nowadays, we can say 90% of the components is local made in China. So that help us to grow our industry. The same time to help us to grow our economy. And the same time, we really share our profit with our investors who bring this industry up. So the same thing, the same experience we have to see. If today we grow up with our renewable energy today and to be worldwide benefit, we have to also see how we can benefit in Africa, which is less developed than China, how we bring our technology, empower the local community to grow the local industry and also with the job employment, technical transfer, and energy transition. So that is a must. You have to grow and enjoy the benefit together with the local people.
But that can be a long process. What about the trust issue? Like as you develop your firm, develop a business, you mentioned about the trust thing at the beginning of your business. How do you tackle with that?
Frankly speaking, instead of talking about trust, I would like to use the word always look positively. If you talk about negative, you can handle negative. But if you think positively, there's always somebody you can trust. There are always some industry which you can grow. If you look at Africa, which I'm working on, a big geography, big population. Today, there are still 700 million people fully in the off-grid, no electricity at all. The market is huge. So if you grow the market healthily, finally you will be benefiting yourself. Of course, in the very beginning, to build a trust or create a customer awareness and shortlist who is your reliable partner for long term, you need to be patient and take a little bit of time to understand each other and to test each other and to find out who is your soulmate. Yes.
If I could just add a comment as well. I think being able to make energy more and more affordable in a developing market like the African continent, which has more than 50 countries or so, that's a tremendous step, because it then empowers the local population, people who are would-be innovators themselves, but who have not had access to really cheap energy. It empowers them to feel better about themselves. They can be taking a step onto the consumer ladder. They can be innovating themselves. Yeah. So you're providing cheap energy, which is a wonderful thing. Yeah.
not just cheap energy, as we know,
affordable energy.
Affordable energy, and also sometimes the area that they just don't have any access to electricity or energy anyways. But on that, we can definitely see technological advancement can bring better livelihoods to less developed regions and developing countries. But again, if we look at the global economy and during the opening ceremony, not just the Chinese Premier Li and also the Polish president and the Vietnamese prime minister, they all kind of cautioned us that we need to face that we see the stagnation in global economy, and that means maybe slower trade, or more costly shipping. So, what's your observation, Professor Zhang? How has the trade recovered, or the shipping industry recovered from COVID, or even from the earlier crisis around the world?
Well, as the shipping industry has a little bit delayed than the global economy in terms of recovery, so that means that is also delayed by the recovery and also delayed by the impact. So you can also see actually you can tell the recovery from the recovery of economy, so you can tell the recovery of international shipping. So actually I think shipping is really indispensable to the world economy. We now just when Li is discussing her product, I was thinking that actually you are actually serving the fundamental needs of those very poor people. But actually, I think that is only related to the shipping industry. So to ship your cargo, right? So that can make the cargo affordable. That is the key point. Because shipping, that is very critical to transport intersectional trade that is a very long distance, and in particular those intercontinental transport. Please, if you ask Li, so what other transport mode you can choose to ship your cargo, I think the answer is no. The shipping is the only choice.
Yeah, to reach Africa.
Yeah, to reach Africa. Yeah. So you cannot serve the electricity directly from China to Africa. So I think that is the key role of international shipping, that is to make the goods affordable, because the cost of shipping that is much, much lower than aviation or railways. So since that is serving the fundamental and sometimes the survival needs of the poor or some developing countries, in particular the Cs and LDCs, so I think that is very fundamental for shipping to take a role in the recovery of the global economy.
Especially like in Africa, or because I've been to the Middle East region multiple times last year, and even though Saudi Arabia or the UAE, they are actually pretty opened up to the rest of the world, and they are building new ports so that they can better utilize the Red Sea or whatnot, and African countries are building new ports or whatnot. But we're also seeing regional conflicts. How can that play into a factor in terms of the shipping industry?
You mean the conflict, you mean in the level of value, maybe?
Or value where just some places might not just be safe for shipping, and that there will be maybe more costly shipping routes, and sometimes just people just cannot get away.
For example, the Red Sea.
It may, absolutely. Saudi Arabia is really trying to boost up its capability in the Red Sea, but there's so much uncertainty just over there.
Yeah, we all know that the world now is facing some conflicts that we do not want to see. But anyway, as the blood of the world economy, I think shipping should be robust and resilient to all the conflicts or some negative impacts of some issues that we cannot control. But I do not think shipping itself as an industry can address this issue. But shipping, that is the international network. If you cannot go some route, you can make a detour and to serve the same need. But anyway, I think the whole world should join together and working together to address those issues. But shipping should continue to take the role to provide the affordable and cost-effective service.
I was just going to say, we can see how important maritime trade is. Global 80% of global trade is maritime. Yeah. So, and we can see that the disruption in the Red Sea caused by the conflict there we can see how important that maritime trade is, because the disruption in the Red Sea has just been so significant for many countries and for many companies. And I think the traffic through the Suez Canal was down 50% in the first quarter of this year because of the conflict. So vessels are having to go all the way around Africa, which obviously adds time. So yeah, the geopolitical complications and aspects of global trade are things that obviously add cost and add time to trade. But I agree with Professor Zhang that maritime trade is absolutely essential for smoother global trade. Yeah.
If we look at trade, and because China, Dalian has been a very important trade hub, especially in the northeast of China. The first 5 months trade number here in China, import and exports, grew over 60%. That's still a relatively strong number, especially if we'll compare to the pandemic era. How can a strong China's trade performance kind of somewhat boost confidence globally?
You mean the boost in Chinese economy that can provide the confidence of the recovery of the whole economy? That is really a broad topic, I think. Because China is a typical developing country, and now if China can do something, and because China that is very broad, we have various resources that we can use. And in terms of transportation, we do not only rely to international shipping, but also have other modes of transport. So it may be easier for China to quickly recover from the impact of COVID, because we can make best use of our various resources. But it may not be the case for many other countries.
But in that regard, can like the Belt and Road Initiative or the Maritime Silk Road somewhat play into that, as you have mentioned? Because if we look at it, China-led globalization scheme is always kind of being more, as you know, we're knowing, right, is being inclusive. It's not just China build railways, but it's offer opportunities. Can these somewhat compensate?
I think such regional cooperations or coordinations or some initiatives can be always helpful. And China is now trying our best and to not export, but to try to help, like the lease industry. I think similarly, that we try our best to provide not only the fish, but also the skills for fishing. So that is, I think, the spirit of the regional cooperation, and that is also the confidence we can present to the rest of the world.
And Chris, in addition to your position in APCO Worldwide, and you also serve as the Vice Chairman for British Chamber of Commerce here in China, and China has reaffirmed its commitment to opening up to the rest of the world, but of course it has been a topic in recent days. And so what's your take on this? What's your evaluation of China's opening up policy like in today?
I think the rest of the world has been relying on China and China's growth for decades now, and obviously the proportion of global growth has been, China's contribution to that has been significant, and that's helped other economies. Obviously, geopolitics has complicated the whole discussion now. We've seen a drift towards populism, which one could argue began after the global financial crisis, and so this questioning of the merits of globalization, where certain markets have benefited more than others, that's being played out to the full during a year where we're seeing 65 elections across the world. In the country where I come from, the UK, we've seen the EU elections, and obviously we have probably the most important election coming up in November. But against that backdrop, it's important that I think both sides try to establish ground where there's mutual benefit. And we work with a lot of Chinese companies who are going overseas, and we're working with them trying to help solve the very challenges that we helped multinational clients coming to China solve over the past 20, 30 years. And I think one of the biggest challenges is convincing, if we take the case of Europe, for example, markets and populations who have not had regular contact with China. There hasn't been any visiting during the COVID years. Maybe even their political leaders haven't visited. And a media which has turned perhaps towards a more populist, adversarial stance towards China. It's a question of how Chinese companies can remind economies in Europe of the benefit of investment. And I think we're seeing some progress there as Chinese companies look to invest in European countries. Not just importing China-made products, but by setting up factories, providing jobs, demonstrating economic growth. And I really believe the best way to do that is through China's market-leading industries around solar panels, around electric vehicles, around car batteries, because those are areas where China has leapfrogged the rest of the world and is now providing best-in-class affordable products. So we have to get over that kind of political problem and recognize that Europe, the rest of the world, we have net zero carbon targets as well, and yet we're making it more difficult for companies which are bringing that value to us to actually operate in our countries. So I think joint ventures are the way forward. I think investment through providing jobs locally, that's a very effective way to win over populations that may have felt a little disenfranchised. They feel like they lost their jobs to China, which is not actually the case. So I think that's the way forward. But there's no doubting the challenges that every election around the world presents, because you have a new administration coming in with its own narrative.
I've been speaking to other international firms attending Davos or previously in this year, and they mentioned they believe that let international politics out of the Chinese market is just too good to be ignored or whatnot. But again, greenfield investment are very important. A lot of companies, private sectors or China state-owned, are also trying to kind of invest locally and build up infrastructure and factories locally. But we're still seeing parts of the world are kind of being pretty hostile to certain Chinese products, especially new energy products. Not in Africa yet, but for Ms. Lee, are you worried that because right now the US and the EU are really kind of trying to compete with the new energy sector here from China, will they somewhat kind of affect your business in the future? And then actually you are partnering with a lot of those energy leaders from those European markets or the US.
Not at all. Not at all worried about it. The reason is I think I'm doing something right 15 years ago. I made the right choice, working for some population who is less privileged. So there is nobody compete with me, no competitors. And now 15 years later, saving me and saving my company and saving our business. No competitors, because we are quite professional now. We really understand what is consumers' need. This is really difficult. And I know there are so many companies is facing a lot of challenge recently because of the anti-tax, right? Import tax, So not at all. The reason is Africa need is a really huge demand, especially in recent years because of climate change. So some countries rely on hydro. The water is becoming less and less. The river is becoming small. So their power consumption, power generation is having big issues. For example, Zambia this year, I heard from my partner, the electricity bill is coming to $1 for 1 kilowatts, 1 unit. It's extremely expensive. So some countries, the electricity facility infrastructure, even the cable is there, but the loading is not there. So I think there's a huge market, no matter is for 80% or 70% of rural is fully off. Even 20% to 30% for urban or for the city is also having the same challenge for the power electricity. So it's a huge market. But why I'm not worried for competition? So the one who is used to work for European and USA, the product feature is quite different than the African need. So like us now, we're starting from the small solar home lighting, which only light up the house. And then we swift to enlarge our business to lighting with a mobile charger. You cannot understand the people spend 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers a week to charge their phone, just for charging the phones. And then we already increased our product range again this year to be solar DC home appliances, like a TV, fan, fridge, and freezer. The reason we enlarge our product range to be solar DC home appliances is just because the benefit of the dropping down of solar panel cost and also the battery cost. If this industry is not dropping down the price, and this African affordability can never meet up. And I trust Africa is going to enter into the new energy generation rather than the other countries who has the coal generator to power the electricity. The reason is I trust the solar will be the cheapest energy for Africa. The density of the, especially in the rural villages, is very loose, is not very tight. So to build the infrastructure is more costly. So use the decentralized solar storage plus DC home appliances is a better choice, is a cheaper way, cleaner, brighter, cheaper, affordable. Why not? So I think some of the industry leaders also need to look at Africa market is huge. So, but even the smaller one, SMEs, can look at this market. But we need to maintain long term and work with the local deeply. And another thing, biggest opportunity I can see, the window is open for local industry growth. Means all the government of Africans is appealing everybody, come invest, and the most important is not only the money, it's not only the capital, but it's also empower, technology transfer, energy transition, job employment. They have huge growth populations. They want to empower their younger people with know-how and to grow their country into the next step. So stand in the market size, huge enough, not worried at all. Standing in the competition, we are early frontiers. And I think the industry leaders, when they want to enter into this industry, they don't want to grow from 0 to 1. Maybe they want to scale from 1 to 100. So somehow I will not be their competitor, but most probably will be their partner. Or they will be their investor target to grow together, the joint venture factories.
So I find it quite interesting, especially when the European Union is trying to kind of raise tariffs on China's EVs about a week ago. Kind of from the business communities, they have been kind of being a little bit more like not behind the solution, but we definitely see kind of rising local protectionism and the force for protectionism or anti-globalization is still there anyways. But speaking of going green, going sustainable, the shipping industry. How can the shipping industry become green or sustainable and also using innovations? I know artificial intelligence and big data has been used in terms to better calculate the routes, shipping routes or whatnot. Can they actually save more cost and save energy or whatnot?
Well, you are correct that actually the application of AI can contribute to the reduce of GHG emissions, but that is not the utmost solution, because the ultimate solution should be the transition of the fuel. That means switching from the current fuel from fossil and gradually to the innovative alternative fuels. And for shipping industry, shipping, that is a highly complex industry, and we compared to aviation, we have a lot of more options. It seems like a good news, right? More options, but actually not. We prefer we have only one option, because if you have more options, you have to choose. So for all the candidates, now the Musk that is now choosing the methanol, green methanol, and some others may consider the choice of ammonia, and some short range voyages can use electricity or batteries, and when the shipping is at port, they can use the shore power. So that means to transition from the current conventional fuels to alternative fuels, we have lots of options. And actually in year 2023, the International Maritime Organization have already adopted a strategy to reduce the GHG emissions from shipping. And in that strategy, it sets out a level ambition, that is to achieve net zero emissions by or around, i.e. close to 2050. And by year 2030, the uptake of alternative fuels, we call that zero or near zero fuels, or technology or other energy sources should be the share of at least 5% and striving 6%. So that means that organization have already set a very clear level of ambition and pathway towards decarbonization. So alternative fuels, including advanced biofuel and synthetic fuels made from green hydrogen and green carbon. So you will have hydrogen or methanol or ammonia. So that would be the utmost solution. And there are also some innovative technologies, like the onboard carbon capture and storage. So on land, that is very popular technology. You capture the carbon when you create some product. But onboard ship, you can apply the similar technology. You simply capture the GHG emissions and mainly the carbon dioxide and from the exhaust gas, and then capture that, store that on ship, and then finally you can permanently store those carbons or for other uses. So we have multiple solutions, but the challenge is that which you can choose. So that depends on the characters of your ship and the route and the resources actually you can use. So the most challenge we are facing now is the supply, a balanced supply of alternative fuels.
I've also seen, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Zhang, but I've seen renewed research into sails as well, fixed sails, which reduce that. And a couple of months ago, I met a European company who are, I think, partnering with a local company here, and they have patented a kind of structure on the front of the vessel which reduces the friction, if that's the right word, from the wake. So I think there are various sort of innovative methods that to support fuel economy as well.
Yeah, I agree. We call that energy saving or energy conservation technologies. So we have actually several pathways, and that you mentioned that is at operational level. So we can use operational measures to reduce the reduced energy consumption or reduce the GHG emissions. And the second level, that is the innovative technology, that is also to improve the energy efficiency of the ship. So that is mainly during the ship design and the building phases. But in operational phases, your choice can be limited because you can only choose several technology and to reduce the emission. But the ultimate solution should be the switch from current conventional fuels and to the alternative candidates.
New energy.
New energy, as including wind propulsion and solar panel. But solar panel cannot be used as the main propulsion, but it can still help.
Backup power.
And not back up, just we call that complementary. The main power that is too huge that cannot be satisfied by solar panel on board ships.
But maybe in the future, when battery technology continues to improve and the solar energy can be better utilized to power bigger things or whatnot. And thanks you so much. Yeah. And we had a great discussion into the present issues, challenges, and of course in the future. Speaking of the coastal city here in Dalian, the shipping industry. And again, we're in Dalian, Liaoning province, northeast of China. Over 1,700 government and business leaders, industry leaders from around the world are in the city, attending the annual meeting of new champions under the World Economic Forum, and they're here discussing new trends in the world economy and of course challenges it faces. And we're going to keep you updated about what's happening here in Dalian during the 2024 Summer Davos. Thanks for watching.